All right, we are recording. So this is DiveTribe Elite Gathering, January 3rd, 2021. Man, I got to get used to writing 21. This is the free DiveTribe gathering. Typically, people who show up here have to pay a little membership fee. They get these gatherings every 2 weeks, plus a lot of other cool benefits. And but we're going to try this out so everybody has a chance to see what we do here behind the curtains. And I'm glad that everybody had a chance to join us. So I'm going to start with a bit of an introduction. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Bob Martin of the Nautilus Drydocks, also known as the RCSubGuy on YouTube and the various forums. DiveTribe Gathering was put together as a venue that a group of like-minded individuals could get together and talk subs. Now, I've done YouTube live videos. It's really not the same. For those of you that have seen those, you know, I kind of lecture on those, and people can like type as I lecture, and so I can bring up topics that people talk about. But this is a lot different. This is the opportunity people get right up in there. I completely understand that not everybody is comfortable on camera. They don't want to have their camera going. They don't want to talk. They just want to absorb, and that's perfectly fine. The other thing that I do want to mention, because this was brought up to me by actually a couple of people, they say they feel intimidated by the group, by the people who are here, who've been doing this hobby for, you know, decades. And as newcomers, it is kind of difficult to, you know, interject what they may consider to be a, you know, a newbie or newcomer question. For those of you who fit that bill, or who are going to be watching this video later, I'm speaking for myself, but I think also for everybody else here who is a regular attendee. We love new blood. There is nothing better than seeing the hobby through the eyes of somebody who has not been submerged in it you know, for years and years and years. So there is no such thing as a stupid question. You know, if we do start getting way too you know, entry level, we can pick up a conversation, you know, offline. Regardless, we're going to make sure that you walk away with whatever information and knowledge you need. So by all means, when the opportunity arises, speak up, and we would love to hear from you. A couple of things, just bookkeeping work here, codes of conduct. It's just best practice for those of you who are not used to it in these video meetings to try and keep your mic muted unless you are actively trying to talk. And this saves like dogs barking and cell phones ringing and, you know, all of that kind of fun distraction stuff going on in the background from overriding whoever's trying to talk. So if you take a look at your screen, at least in my screen, it's the bottom left-hand corner, it says mute. Just remember, if you are trying to get someone's attention, that you're not with nothing coming out. Okay, so remember to unmute if you do want to say anything. And I'm going to keep this little chat window up.
And Bob, if I could just throw something out there. Holding the space bar, down allows you to unmute it while you talk, and then you just
nice. There you go. That's a tip from a power user right there. So you can use the space bar to act like a mic button. So you can press it down to talk and release.
Yeah, it works.
Nice, nice. And then too, like I said, I'm going to keep the chat window open. There's a chat option there. If you're too nervous or don't want to worry about it, to talk, pop me a little message and I can bring it up and queue it up for discussion amongst the group. All right. And this is like, I shouldn't even have to mention this, but obviously, let's all behave like adults here. There's no put downs, no derogatory remarks, no racial slurs. This is all common sense stuff, but I want to mention it. All right. So with that, what I typically do with the DiveTribe because this is something I'm sponsoring and I get to because I'm just special that way. I get to let you know what I've been working on, what I got going on in the shop. Sometimes it cues up discussions and sometimes people stare at me blankly. So we'll see how it goes today. I very selfishly took most of the week off. I did not do too much other than make sure the shop was still there and bring packages over the course of the week. However, up to that point, the main things that I've got going on, the big one, obviously, I got a beautiful shipment of big, ugly, heavy boxes from His Illustrious Majesty, David Merriman III. And the boxes contained all of the masters and tooling for the MSD subdrivers. So as some of you know, probably most of you know, Dave is moving on to bigger and better things that are going to be more beneficial to the hobby than slugging away in the shop casting parts all day. And that means that we are bringing the production of subdrivers in-house at the dry docks. And that means we got a little bit of a hiccup in terms of supply as I get the shop set up, but we are getting close. We have everything unpacked. We're ready to go. I've got the first prototype of the version 3 MSD subdriver about 50% completed, and things are looking really, really good there. It's going to be the 3-inch diameter unit with the optional 3 3/4-inch ballast tank. And that will take care of a lot of models. Specifically, I want to make sure that you know, the ARC model Type 7 is addressed because that is a huge seller and a great way that people have been attracted to the hobby because of the quality and price of that kit. After that's all done, we'll be moving on to the smaller 2.5, and that'll address a lot of the 96 scale models that are coming out. Torpedoes, in conjunction with the build that I got going on. I don't know, sometimes Ed Frank hangs around in here. I don't know if he's here today. I've been slogging away on a build of his, and we are close. The only thing I've got left is this integration of the torpedo system. These are gas-powered torpedoes, and if everything goes well, which it looks like it does, I'll be able to offer a 48 scale gas-powered torpedo system for sale on my website. So watch for that coming in the nearish future. If we circle back to this topic, Nick, who I can see floating in the bottom left-hand of my screen, he's been goofing around with torpedoes too, and he's done a really cool job of both mechanical and gas torpedoes and the associated launcher. For those of you who are not already there, the forums, by the way, forum.rc-sub.com, the link is on my website. Amazing, amazing repository of information. So if you have not gone there, or if you rarely go there, you're missing out on a lot. You need to go. Last thing, because I know Ed is going to be asking me about it, the 48 scale Disney Nautilus kit. Prototype parts, the first run of the parts are in the shop. I'm going to begin assembly of that prototype and generation of the instructions. So probably the next couple of weeks, you'll see that open for ordering. 1/48 works out to about 4 feet long, by the way. If you're a fan of Jules Verne, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, or the Disney Nautilus in general, that product will be ready to go very soon. So there you go. That's like the big stuff that I've got going on here. What I think I'll do at this point, because I think it's important and sometimes we gloss over it, I'm going to open this up to the group. So if you want to talk, just unmute and talk, or chat me, instant message me, or whatever, and we'll queue it up. But let's take the next few minutes and we'll talk about challenges, problems, opportunities that you have with your build, with your hobby, what you got going on that you think maybe we'd be able to help you with. So open it up to the group. Now's your chance.
Sure, I'll start. It's been a couple months since I've been here, so been busy with work, busy with projects too. So I thought I'd show off what I have been working on. Let me see if this works. Flip around like that. as you can see, I live in an apartment, so I don't really have a nice shop like some people do, but I just do the best I can with my apartment. There's my Sculpin, this little Mobius skipjack 172 scale. Some of you've probably seen that on the subcommittee Facebook. I recently did post on the subcommittee Facebook this Key West. It's a 172 scale Los Angeles class. It comes off of the Nautilus Drydocks. Comes from the Czech Republic. It's a really cool kit, actually. It's a PVC pipe, and then it's got 3D printed bow, 3D printed stern section, and sail. I put the 3.5-inch subdriver in there from the skipjack. It fits perfectly. Just you take the back end off and you slide it right in, and put some Velcro down, put it against my little bulkhead, and it's good to go. It actually works. So if you're on the subcommittee Facebook page, I post some videos there. I'll probably post to the forums here in a little bit. But just tried it out the other day. Works pretty well. Still got to work on the Fairwater planes. My push rod's not working too well for that, but we'll get it there. I actually just finished fabricating some scratch-built masts and antennas that don't come with the kit. The kit itself comes with the pipe and the 3D parts, but I've added some extra stuff since I used to be on the Key West. So I added the little mast myself, added a little shark fin by myself, and added a couple cleats as well just to kind of detail it out. But it's a very nice kit, actually. Very good. Well worth the wait, that's for sure. So I guess what I can do is try to set it up and kind of show how it comes apart if anyone's interested. It's kind of like a review, I guess. Not like a part review.
That's looking real good. And as you do that, I just wanted to mention Otto is the gentleman who offers that kit out of the Czech Republic. And I do offer those kits on the dry docks. Otto is an amazing like 3D sculptor, and the fitment of the parts is actually really, really cool in all of the products that he puts out.
Question for you, Matt.
Yeah, it's
Question
very
for you.
neat.
Matt, quick question. The shark fin, that's the torpedo acoustic intercept, the NWLR9, the shark fin forward on your bow.
Yeah, you got the hydrophone here. I put a small one up here too, and then you can kind of see on the front as well. I put one on the bottom too. That's a lesser known one. That's the one that I told. That's the one that I told people on the boat. This is the only one I kissed. You know, I do the checkout. I'm like, hey, which hydrophone have I kissed? And they're like, the one on the front. I'm like, nope. The one on the top. Nope. I'm like, no, the one under here, because I was in the dry dock at the time. But so
That's the first thing to get knocked off.
yeah, I'd probably get knocked off. But
Was she your qual boat?
yes, she was my first boat. So
Great. I'm going to be pinging you for some details there to work on the 48th Key West.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that looks very beautiful, by the way. But it's very cool to get in here. You just take the front off, and the sail also comes off too. The original kit, the sail's screwed on, but I put my SAS snorkel up in here, if you can see it. So which the mounts for the screws get in the way. So I took those out and I put some magnets, and it's very nice because I can just take my magnet and plop it down, and it's very sturdy. Actually, it's very, very well secured in there. The stern also comes off too, pretty nice. But so very neat setup. I used magnets to attach it here because it like slides in and it fits, but the weight of the subdriver will take my stern off if I let it. So I don't know if there's something else that you all use. It's a pipe, so I don't really have the ability to turn it into a Z-cut. At least I don't have the tools for that. But I figured like magnets would probably be a good way to attach the stern section on. There is a point for a screw here, which I have been using, but I don't know if anyone else has an idea or suggestion on that.
I'm sure people will chime in, and I'll give my 2 cents on that one. For something as important as keeping like the front and back of your boat on, I would be a huge proponent of a mechanical fastener. Magnets are great for detail pieces. You know, it's not at the end of the world if you lose your sail, you know, or a conning tower. But if your stern falls off, that's kind of a big deal. The stainless bolt or something, taking the 2.5 seconds to do and undo that is probably well worth the hassle.
Helical screws are your friend.
And another thing, if you cut that PVC pipe, it's going to spring.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
Yeah.
It won't stay.
I think it was Frank that was it Frank that was talking about this earlier? So those PVC pipes that you buy from like Home Depot or whatever, they're obviously perfect for, the hull of a modern boat, but they're under stress, internal stresses. And when you cut them, those stresses are relieved. And unfortunately, you're going to see them, spring inwards or outwards. I don't remember which. I think maybe inward. Oh no, it was Steve, wasn't it? I think that was you. That
My Ohio.
Yep. So
Okay.
just splitting it vertically is fine, but if you cut it lengthwise, you're gonna see some energetic release of potential energy.
Yeah, actually, on my submarine, I have a PVC pipe as well, a 4-inch inner diameter one, and I cut it along the x-axis, and it did spring inwards. The way I fixed that, it's not. I don't know if it's gonna be perfect, but it's pretty good actually. I made some like bulkheads that are the exact diameter with my 3D printer, and I just insert them, and it kind of pushes it back out, I think, in a good enough way to where it's not noticeable anymore.
Yep, there you go.
Yeah, and you can also make some little inserts because when you the blade length of your blade that you use to cut it, I used a blade to cut it, and of course that eats up some of the material, right? So you have to replace that material. So you have to make some little thin strips. I did it with my 3D printer. Make some little thin strips to glue in there to fill in that gap, so that when you push the two halves together, there's not a gap anymore.
Gotcha. So you're talking about the material that's removed from the width of your blade as you cut. And this is worthwhile mentioning because in all of our models, we do cuts. Like this tool of the trade, for your toolbox, if you don't already have it, is a razor saw. You're talking about like a width of something in the vicinity of a 32nd, maybe even less than that, like a 64th of an inch.
A razor saw. I'll look into that because that seems useful.
And it'll cut like crazy. Yeah, there you go. Mike is holding one up for you. It looks like a meat cleaver, but the edge of it is a razor blade that's like serrated. It's really cool.
Keep in mind,
If I could just inject here, with PVC pipe, I've worked with it for years. If you cut it lengthwise and then heat it, you can relax it back to its circular position. Sometimes you may need a mandrel to set it on. I've used a paint stripper or an oven to heat it enough just so it relaxes back to a circular cross section.
That would work awesome for little boats. I think Mike's is like 5 feet long or something like that. Heating that equally might be a challenge, but that's a great suggestion there. Yeah.
5-inch long razor saw right there.
There you go.
Yep.
Cool.
If I can add,
Yeah.
if I can add to that, one of those oscillating, they call them multi-tools. Dremel makes them, Rockwell makes them. They'll cut through that PVC like butter, and it's almost no waste whatsoever. And you won't cut your hand if you touch your hand on it. It's amazing.
There we go. Yeah, if you're in this hobby and you don't own a rotary tool, you're gonna be in for a world of pain. Dave's not in his shop, but I caught his bug. I've got 4 of them. I think he's got like 10 all lined up in his shop.
Yeah. Are we talking rotary? No, I'm not talking rotary. I'm talking oscillating. It oscillates at 30,000 cycles per second.
Yeah, and I understand. It was basically like a jigsaw, right?
No. Oscillate sideways. It's like similar to the thing they cut people open with in the hospital. It oscillates side to side.
scrapes tiles off of floors.
That's it. There you go. and the blade is probably a 32nd of an,
A sonic.
yeah.
Uses
But
a
you want
cut
about
cast
a
line.
sonic cutter.
I guess
Yeah.
that's what they call it, an oscillating cutter, but I mean, here, I don't know. I guess they call it an sonic. But it,
Yeah.
the blade is, could be about an
Brilliant
inch.
Recommended.
I use it for everything, fiberglass, and it's a rectangular blade. So you cut the corner, you put the corner into it, and it'll just follow a straight line. You don't even, you follow a pencil line. It's a really, and then they're not expensive, maybe $50, $60.
There we go.
Yeah, and they cut through like every material. I have one. It's pretty amazing.
Either that or
Harbor
get a
Freight, Harbor Freight.
fiberglass hull, fiberglass hull.
All right, thanks, Matthew. That looks awesome. You're doing a great job.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. Yeah, I think I'll go with the screw idea. That's what I think probably the best I can do.
Yep.
So, and I don't want this thing to pop. That's a whole nother pipe I'd have to get.
There'll be nothing more embarrassing as watching the end of your boat fall off in the water with a crowd around you.
Yeah, that also would suck.
But we'll be kind to you if it does happen.
Yeah, well. I mean,
No,
it's
you
always-
won't. No, you won't. No, you won't. No way.
I'll loan you a towel.
Dumb nub.
All right, that's great. All right, who else is running into issues with their build or opportunities or questions?
I've
Can I
got a
just-
question.
Can I just
On
take a,
my Nautilus, the 177 scale that I got from you, Bob.
Yeah.
The 2-inch subdriver, what is the material on the subdriver? Is it plexiglass, acrylic, or polyacrylic? What?
That's the
I
polycarbonate.
see some of these subdrivers. I got this 2.5-inch one that I got from David, and it has a little flex in it where the subdriver on the Nautilus, it's solid, and I'm not sure what type of materials are, I'm looking at scratch building a small submarine, and it's going to require a 2-inch watertight compartment system. So I was just curious to know what material was in that Nautilus sub.
Lexane.
Did you say Lexan, David? So that's the brand name of polycarbonate, right?
Lexon, okay. And if it's got flex, now I noticed that one that I got from David, you could take the end cap off and, it does flex. And so, and that's the Lexon?
Lexan. So just for you guys, and I'm no expert, but there's really two materials for clear cylinders. It'll be polycarbonate, which is it's more flexible. Typically, they would extrude it rather than cast it, and you'll see that there's almost like striations if you look really, really close. As they extrude it out. It's durable. If you take that thing and you slam it on the ground, it'll just bounce. The other material that you'll get is acrylic, and that is typically more optically clear, but it's also very brittle. So if you were to do that same thing and hit it on the ground, it would shatter and it would crack.
and that's often called Perspex. I don't know if that's a brand name you get in the States, but here in Australia, it's also known as Perspex, and a lot of people call it Perspex, even though they don't actually know it's acrylic.
There you go. Yeah, it's like Kleenex, right? Kleenex is tissue, but everybody calls it a Kleenex. So yeah, polycarbonate, and that's the difference primarily between the two materials. And each
Wall
one has
thickness.
advantages and disadvantages, but for our application, typically polycarbonate is pretty cool. And here's a little secret, and I don't want to shoot myself in the foot for you guys, but if you're looking to scratch build your own cylinder and you're looking for a cheap source of 2.5-inch polycarbonate, when people do built-in vacuum systems in their house, you can get that tubing clear, and you can buy it from the home improvement store, and they come in 8-foot lengths for $40. And if you were to buy it from a plastic shop, it's $40 for 2 feet. So it's a great source. The tolerance is great. I've used it a lot, and I'll probably continue to use it. 1/16 of an inch wall, so you're not over engineering anything. On that topic, by the way, if you were to think about this, you know, our cylinders, if you were to have a 1/8 inch thick wall, theoretically, that thing would probably be good to like 150 feet of depth before it would crush. That's really overkill, over engineering your cylinders. So you don't need, you know, we're operating at 3 feet here, guys. So provided it's keeping the wet side, you know, the wet stuff on the wet side and the dry stuff on the dry side, you're okay. 1/16 of an inch is good. You know, 2 millimeters is lots.
Hey, Bob.
I don't know if you guys saw that Thunder Tiger Neptune boat that I did. I got a video up right now. It was like a turnkey boat, static diving boat. That was a 1/4 inch thick, clear plastic cylinder. I mean, you could dive with that to like the bottom of the ocean and it would have been fine. It was ridiculous.
If I can add regarding the built-in vacuum cleaner tubes, if you want to go bigger, look for the commercial, you know, the canisters that they put the money in and they whisk them away up to the ceiling. Those are, you know, you can go much bigger with those, and they're also readily available.
I wonder, where would you get that from? Obviously, they wouldn't typically keep that at like a hardware store.
Google is your friend. You'd have to research it. It's
right.
Probably MSC or Granger, if I had to guess.
All right. There you go.
I do have a question.
Can I?
Or if you want to, it's about batteries. So I'm pretty new to the hobby, and I don't know. The electronics is probably the hardest part for me. But so I have a LiPo battery, 11.1 volt LiPo, and I want to waterproof it. And I seen your video about waterproofing, Bob, and I was wondering, why wouldn't you want to waterproof a LiPo battery? Now I've done it successfully with a 7.4 volt. It has a hard outer shell, and I use gasket sealer. It's kind of a rubbery. It dries. And it worked. I put it in a bucket of water. I took it out, plugged it in, worked, and then I put it in the bucket of water. I plugged it in while I was in there, and it worked. Right. Sure. So, is there any other issues that I don't know because I'm not experienced?
So we brought this up at a previous DiveTribe, and David Merriman mentioned this. There's no reason that you can't run a LiPo in the wet. The issue is if you poke a hole in the side of it and you don't notice. So if you do that with a sealed lead acid battery, you get some acid on your hands, right? Or with a NiCad, there's, you know, the nickel cadmium paste or whatever. Lithium really likes water, and I say that sarcastically because it reacts, let's just say, somewhat energetically. When it contacts water, you will have a conflagration / explosion in your boat. So yes, you can run it in the wet. Would I recommend it? Probably not, unless you're putting, you know, that super heavy duty thick like heat shrink around it. Right. That will act as armor, because taking that in and out of your boat, you got pokey little linkages and, you know, corners of plastic. If you inadvertently puncture that skin, and it's not very thick, next you put it in the water, you're gonna have some excitement. So
okay, I mean that makes sense. So
water migration up the insulation as well.
Yeah.
One thing I was going to suggest is, if you did want to go that route, buy an RC car LiPo, because they are in sealed hard cases.
Right. That's what I have. I think one of those. It's in a sealed plastic case, right? And then what I did is it has edges, so I put the gasket sealer along the edges, and then also where the wires come out, I stuffed it down in there. But I mean, I understand that the durability, I don't want to trust that with my submarine that I spent a lot of time on.
The other thing you've got to be aware of is when you seal it with any thickness that you're talking about, taking a LiPo out of a box, and you start putting that sealer on there, or if it's in a hard case, and I'm sure you guys that run autos or cars, you got to watch your charging. If you start doing fast charges, these batteries will heat up. If you've got all of this sealer on the outside,
Right.
I've seen this happen because of guys at the flying field when I was doing that. They would overamp these batteries when they were charging them. The battery laid flat on the table, and by the time they got them charged, the battery was ready to roll off the table. And, you know, they will explode. So you got to watch your charging no matter what you do, and the balancing as you're charging it. So I would be a little bit aware of that if you're going to seal these up real tight where the heat can't be dissipated.
Right.
So on that topic, and again, we covered this in a previous one, but it's worth bringing up again. If you're going to be, actually, if you're running any battery, get a proper computerized balance charger. You know, it takes a lot of the guesswork out of charging, and you know, it's constantly monitoring the voltage and resistance as it charges up the cells of the battery. I've had a LiPo explode on me. This was back when Caswell first started, and they got that big shipment of Chinese LiPos and Chinese battery chargers. Oh yeah, baby. That's why you charge in a LiPo bag. But I came back and my entire bench had burned, and my whole garage was filled with smoke. So don't goof around. Buy a $50 proper computerized balance charger. It'll work for sealed lead acid batteries, NiCads, nickel metal hydride, LiPo, lithium ion. It works for all of them. They're like awesome.
Cool. Thank you, guys.
Someone's got some.
I just wanted to chime in there. I don't know if you can hear the kookaburras in the background. I'm sitting outside at the moment because it's supposed to be a hot summer day here in Australia. Just a shout out to Dave Merriman. Thank you very much for all your help with the seals on these cylinders that I'm making. I really appreciate it, Dave, all your help over the years. Still trying to get the seals to work properly, but thank you very much for, I write something up and then you give me a dump of really useful information. So thank you, Dave Merriman from Australia. I think these are working now, so I'm really stoked with that. So thank you.
And that's so surprising because David is usually so closed with his information, and he's such a selfish bastard. So for those of you that don't know, that was sarcasm. Dave is a regular contributor on the forums, and if you want to learn the ins and outs of this hobby, there's literally treasure trove of information in there. He's been a godsend for this hobby for decades, so we're very fortunate to have him in the group, and I'd like to consider him a friend if he wasn't such a dork. It's fine. All right. Who else? Oh, I had a message here.
Hey, Bob, do you mind?
Oh, yep.
Hey, this is Mike.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, how are you? If I could just take a few minutes, way of introduction, a few things I've been working on as well, if that's permitted.
Yeah.
Great. Hey, my name's Mike. I'm U.S. Navy. I'm stationed here in Virginia, and fortunately close to Dave Merriman, who I consider a great friend and mentor. My experience with submarines, I enlisted in the Navy in 1985, and for the first 10 years, I was attached to the USS Florida. I was at Emergence Unit. I did dives in DSRVs as well as the Sea Cliff to 12,000 feet, which is my big claim to fame, I guess. Eventually was commissioned in 95, and now I'm an aviator. So congratulations to Bob and on soloing and all that. It's pretty amazing. Just remember, altitude is your friend and airspeed is life, Bob. So just remember those two things.
I didn't mention it. I don't know if I did before, but I on the 21st, I did get my license. So I'm a certified private pilot right now.
Good man. Yeah, I definitely go on and get your instrument rating. That'd be.
It's all queued up. You bet.
All right. So I'd also like to chime in on my thanks to Dave. I met Dave about 10 years ago up at a place here called Mount Trashmore. We ran a bunch of RC boats and stuff. And a couple guys sent me down there a little bit tongue in cheek to talk submarines with Dave, thinking, send him down to the ogre and he'd butt my head off. But Dave's been a great friend and he's helped me with a lot of things. I'm very fortunate to be close to him here in the local area. So great dude. I just want to mention that. The stuff I've been working on, this is my first time building an RC submarine. So I do have a few questions. I'd like to show you guys what I've worked on and kind of what I've incorporated. I'll not move the camera yet, but inside my build, what I did is I bought a Parallax Basic Stamp 2 microcontroller, and then through the basic program was able to program that microcontroller to integrate it into the watertight compartment and all electronics in here. There's a couple great features that it does for me. And let me go ahead and move the camera, and I'm sorry for moving this around like this. I'll go ahead, and if you guys can see this, okay. First, I'll turn on the transmitter, and then I'll go ahead and, if that's framed up, okay. So what I did is I used the basic stamp, and I was able to program to go ahead and get a sub-ID beacon going here. So one flash every 3 seconds and off 3 seconds on the masthead light. Other LEDs for running lights and stern and all that. As I raise and lower periscopes, what I'll be able to do with the ground, it'll sense the ground if the periscope is lowered with a magnetic reed switch to round off the signal.
Mike, you're very muted there. It's very, I think a lot of people are probably finding it hard to hear you.
Yeah,
oh, I'm sorry. Is that better?
Your finger on the mic.
Yeah, that's you were a bit fluffy before. You're sounding better now.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. So once the periscope goes down, the magnet hits up against the magnetic reed switch, it'll ground the signal out. So, and then as I raise the periscopes, you'll see that they come back on. The other thing I've incorporated in here is underneath both the WTCs, there are metallic strips. I have 5 volts running through one side in series, and on the other side, it's connected back to the microcontroller. So if water gets there and they arc between the two, the microcontroller detects that. The normal blow system works in here based on it cutting power to the battery link monitor. So cut off the 4 volts or the 5 volts that runs through one of the servos, detects it, blows the surface, as well as then the masthead light and the sub-ID beacon will flash at a super fast rate. So when I get to the surface, I know what happened. It'll also do the same thing if I have a pulse width loss. It'll detect the pulse width loss, and then it'll flash the masthead light for me. So when it bobs to the surface, I'll know what happened to the submarine. The other LEDs I just remain on just for a visual indication. And I guess I could demonstrate that here is all the other functions work the same as you would expect with all the servos and such. But as I turn off the transmitter, you can see now the masthead light is flashing, so it's programmed to do that. And then after 6 seconds, as you guys know with the BLM, it'll go ahead and blow the submarine to the surface. So I've worked on that. I also went ahead and waterproofed the battery to put it outside. And so I kind of like that setup. It's worked pretty well for me. And if I can show it, you can see inside the WTC where I put the microcontroller on the bottom on the sled here and wired all that together. I also incorporated a 1,000 microfarad capacitor to take care of like a shock absorber for the power supply, which has made things much smoother there with chatter and the servos as well. So now I'm moving on to the actual most of the production here, and I put together the sail, most of the cuts and everything like that. But I did notice I've got a pretty wicked, bow right here. I assume once I put the pieces together, that will come out. So that's one of my concerns at this point. And the other is, as you can see with channel 6 here, I've got a linear servo through a throttle linkage cable that will raise and lower the periscopes. So I'm kind of trying to work on a mechanism for that as well. And anybody has any ideas along those lines. And with that, I'll go ahead and cut it off. So the bow and the hull, I guess, is concerned. Has anybody had any experience with throttle linkage cable raising and lowering the periscopes, maybe on a platform? I'm envisioning set screws on threaded rods that will raise them, and they'll be staggered, and then as it comes back down, they're at different levels, so they'll set so they're flush to the top of the sail. Thank you.
Everybody's like astounded, I think, at all the programming that you did in there. That's beyond my pay grade, but I absolutely love it. I count on people like Tim, who's hovering around here somewhere, to do stuff like that. That's awesome, and I would love to talk to you maybe offline about your microcontroller and learn more about that. But
all I can say is, wow.
Yeah, nice. I love it.
Wow.
So the periscopes, there's two things, and again, anybody can chime in here. Those styrene plastic hull kits are prone to warping. That's just the beauty of styrene plastic. If you guys played with models as kids, typically almost all the parts are always warped at least a little bit. I mean, they're thermoformed, so there's, you know, going to be some internal forces in there if they don't cool properly or whatever. You know, as previously mentioned there, you can bind the hull so that it's in the proper, you know, matching orientation, and then heat the entire thing up, and that'll relieve the stresses inside. And then in theory, when it cools and you release your clamps or bands or whatever it is, it should be better. That hull's really not thick though, and for the most part, you could probably get away with simply mechanically pulling it into shape with bulkheads, lips, you know, indexing lips, and all of that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah,
So,
I saw instructions for the blueback where there were tabs that pulled the sides together. So I was going to explore that option to see if that may be something I want to do. I think once I glue together the two bottom pieces, put them on a board, put them down with the rubber bands as instructed, I'm hoping that with putting the other top piece together will take care of that bow, but we'll see. Time will tell.
yeah, you know, and obviously it's a bad time of it, but certainly down here in Florida, I've had great luck binding it and then leaving a hull out in the hot sun. And it gets hot quick, especially if you put some black primer on it first. And it'll heat up to the point where it'll relax and get itself, you know, kind of back into shape again.
I've heard people say they could use a heating blanket.
That'd be a hot heating blanket, wouldn't it? Wow.
Well, yeah. If you leave it on there long enough, it'll.
Oh, like a heating pad? Is that what you're talking about? Like for? Yeah. Okay, I can see that. That.
Wrap it in that. Yep.
Yeah, that's a good call. I'll give that a try. So you can see I made quite a bit of notes as I was putting together the, you know, all the wiring and where it went and such to make sure everything was correct. And then I did a little bit of drafting to try to figure out the exact size of the mounts that I'll have to manufacture for in the interior of the submarine to make sure those are the correct size to be able to fit the battery. And you can see here, this is what I'm envisioning for raising and lowering the periscopes, that I've got about 2 3/4 to 3 inch travel on that throttle linkage. It'll raise and lower with a magnetic linkage. And at the bottom of each mast, there's a threaded rod. And then you just set the set screws at the top or bottom. So when it raises, it's staggered, or when it lowers, it sits on these, and then they'll be flush to the top. So I've been kind of working on that, but I don't know if anybody's had any experience or has done something similar. Maybe.
So if I understand this correctly, you said you have a linear servo that has 2 3/4 inches of travel?
That is correct. I can fire it up if you want to see it.
Well, no, I mean, I don't think, well, I certainly have seen them. Those are not cheap, I know, because I've looked for them, you know, before. I've got some with, you know, smaller travel. They're like 60 or 70 bucks. You probably got a better deal than I managed to, but.
Purchased it there. I originally had that rotary motor that I purchased from you, Bob.
Yeah.
And I was using that, and then once I got it hooked up even to 12 volts and running with the microcontroller, I realized it wasn't as fast as I wanted.
Yeah.
I'd have to be outside. I'd have to waterproof it. There'd be a bolt that would be riding. The platform would rise to raise and lower. So I got away from that and went with the linear servo. Basically, I shrunk the aft end of the submarine where the ESC is and the motor and all that, and then expanded the forward end to fit the microcontroller, so I keep the overall same length.
Yep.
Then wait to figure out how big of a ballast tank I really needed.
Dan Catcher, I believe, has an excellent video of using a standard rotary servo to raise a scope. You may want to look at that because I'm thinking of using the same method. He uses it. I forgot. He has it rotated 90 degrees to the center line of the boat up on the top of the hull, and as it spins one way, a rod runs along the dorsal side underneath the hull and translates a 90-degree movement, and the mast raises up. It's worth looking at.
Okay.
That was Dan Catcher, I believe. I think you can Google it.
I think he's got like a metal linkage arm that
YouTube?
kind of swings up and swings down.
Yeah, YouTube.
Okay. Yeah,
I'll put the link in the chat.
Actually, that's interesting. That linkage I could see working. If you've got like a 3-inch travel horizontally, if you were to make a curved, slotted rod then you know, as that rod pushes, that curved linkage would push upwards. So I'm thinking that might be a way to go.
Can the cable do it?
The problem with the cable is you got to get 90 degrees to the direction of like travel, right?
If you guys see, there's, I apologize for this, but right, you can see the servo inside the WTC here. Are you able to see that? Then it's either down.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Down or up. And then what I did, just like an electric hydroplane, on the shaft, I just put a bunch of Grim Racer lube and then shrink wrap the ends where it comes in and out, and that'll keep it waterproof.
Yep.
But you can see here on the end, so here's the, you see that right there? As I raise and lower, very similar to almost the exact thing you see like on an airplane, RC airplane, for the throttle linkage going back and forth to run the motor.
So what I would think would be a good idea, and Dave has done this when he engineered the cylinders for the Fairwater planes, because those are obviously located above the cylinder. So all it was is he made a figure 8 connector for the output shaft, and so now you've got that linear linkage shaft traveling horizontally parallel to the cylinder, tight right above it, so you don't have to make a loop to bring that motion back along. So you've saved that. That might be something that you want to think about. Now all you need to do then is, and I still think you'd be able to do it, just a straight oversized 90-degree L-shaped bracket that would push up and
bell crank,
pull down. Yeah, exactly. Bell crank.
Well, I know it sounds really silly, but what about Lego Technics gears with the flat? What is it? Where you get the gear and it's got like the flat triangles on it. So you put the gear on the. Because then you could put the gear on the periscopes, and then you can put a magnetic link on something like that.
Yeah, that would be another way of doing it. So you'd have 2 racks, one horizontally, one vertically, and then a pinion gear. And then as that spin, it would push that.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The link for you is in the chat, Mike.
I can bend that pretty good. I take it out the front of this WTC here, and I bend it right back along the side, and it takes maybe about 1 inch of clearance out the front of that WTC, because I'm trying to maintain enough clearance forward to be able to put a torpedo nest in there eventually or something along those lines. So it is pretty flexible. And then based on the measurements I did when I did the calculations here, I've got probably a good, realize the main ballast tank is after the sail in my configuration. So I've got a good, probably about 6 inches of travel, 6 to 1/8 inches of travel from the WTC to the top of the sail.
22 inches long of US.
Is it bent conduit?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I missed that last comment.
Sorry, I think what Ed Tortle just sent me the link to Dan Catcher's video there. So if you search for RC skipjack torpedo and periscope system, that shows his methodology for raising and lowering the periscopes, if you guys wanted to take a look at that.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and
on the same note, I've used Nyrod throttle cable. I don't know if it's still available. The last piece I bought was 20 years ago, and I've run about a 2-inch 90 and got a good 2 to 3 inches of travel out of the end of that cable.
Okay. Yeah, the mechanics of the interior of the sail, I've got to try to figure all that out with this limited size, as you guys know, of how I want to raise and lower those inside there. I think I've got a pretty good idea, and I do have a decent amount of clearance underneath the sail, as the smaller WTC will be under here. Whereas back, so.
Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, it sounds like you got some ideas here. It'd be awesome to see you, next time and see if you've made any progress on that. That would be really cool to see.
Oh, absolutely. And more than willing to code for the microcontroller, and there's so many other things it can do too. You could put a little compass in there and it can maintain heading for you. The depth function, some of the other things you could run through the microcontroller or what have you. It just depends.
Yeah. You know, honestly, that's something that our hobby as a whole is really lacking. For the most part, we're still running off of 1970s technology, you know, for RC submarines, for most people. So, you know, innovation when it comes to, you know, electronics and microcontrollers and computers and that kind of thing is something our hobby could really use. And we got, you know, individuals who are obviously trying to move forward with that. I wanted to also make a quick mention here because it's obviously the topic of concern is this idea of low frequency radios going away. Again, this has been an ongoing topic for people who've been here before, but for people who are just joining us, you know, those low frequency radios are not in production anymore. I've reached out to about 3 or 4 different manufacturers and they're not interested or willing to do that anymore. Matt and I are in talks right now trying to see if we can get a regular supply of low frequency radios put together. But on that topic and as a side to it, I built now 3 subs with 2.4 gigahertz radios controlling them. It's my opinion that there is little to no loss of enjoyment in operating those boats, despite the fact that you need to keep that tip of an antenna above the surface of the water. You know, these new radios have a ton of built-in functionality to them and huge amounts of flexibility. If you want to, it's the Hunley, the T-class, and the S-class. The last 3 videos that I put out were all 2.4 gigahertz submarines. So if you want to, you know, take a look at that, the only thing you can't do is fully submerge underneath the water, which if you're an experienced RC submariner, maybe you're comfortable doing that in, you know, black pond water with shopping carts and logs and branches and all that fun stuff under there to navigate. But for the most part, even me after 20 years, I prefer to see at least some bit or piece of the boat out of the water so I can keep track of it. I think it's the way to go, especially for big boats, because you can easily get, you know, 8, 10, 12, 16 channel 2.4 gigahertz radios for super cheap. So anything you can envision or imagine can be done with these radios. I'm going to get the 2.4 gigahertz crew back together again. And we're also working on a side project for a standalone microcomputer controller that will allow a certain degree of autonomous operation of a submarine running on 2.4 gigahertz, even if it doesn't have any income.
Question, Bob.
Yeah.
With 2.4 gig, is it a case of the fact that the antenna on a lot of the receivers, the antenna is really short, and you need to get a cable to run to and extend a bit of antenna without the connection from the antenna to the receiver attenuating like the antenna? Is that the main issue?
It is, but really
right.
it's kind of a non-issue. Ed Tortle has done a great job in sort of pushing this forward, and he's found a supplier, and I've got it, and I've done it with these. The antenna, the stock antenna literally snaps off, and you put the extension on, and all of a sudden you've got, you know, 3 or 4 feet of antenna extension, and then a little bit of careful cutting, and you've got your antenna done. So it's really
right.
of a non-issue. It takes like 15 minutes, I would say, to swap the antenna around. And
I mean, that makes it a lot easier, because I know here I have even limited supply because we don't have the frequencies that you have in the States or the UK. I mean, we have 36 megahertz, which you've probably never heard of, and that's one of the common frequencies in Australia. So, yeah, I'm hoarding radios at the moment, big time. But yeah, being able to do that and being able to get 2.4 to work reliably is going to be a big saver for the industry and a breath of, you know, it's you know, I talk to newbies all the time and I say, get an old FM radio quick, because they're getting harder and harder to get. But if you can open up 2.4 gigahertz, it's a bit of a breather for everyone. I think that's great.
Well, and honestly, for a beginner, I would really recommend a 2.4 gigahertz radio, because you're going to get into way less trouble if you are, restricted to surface or close to surface operation. In practical application in both of those boats, the way that I had it set up is the instant that the receiver loses signal, it throttles back, it raises the bow planes, and so I didn't even realize that I had lost signal. It just simply came back up until the periscope came out, and it kept on going. It was utterly seamless and completely enjoyable. Whereas, with the low frequency radios, typically you're building in a 2 or 3 second delay to avoid any false signals and that kind of thing. And by then, you could be 2 or 3 feet down. Now the failsafe goes off, it's blowing ballast, and the next thing you see, the submarine's broaching up out of the water like it got stung by a jellyfish, and you go back to it. So there's a lot more drama involved with that, and to a certain degree, a lot more, a higher degree of possibility of getting into trouble. So I'll go into this, I think, more on my channel, the way that I set them up and the way that I got these radios. But I'm becoming a huge proponent of it, and I'm fully aware that it's not going to work for everyone. If you got a swimming pool, access to like a YMCA or something like that, or the reflecting pond at Carmel where the water is crystal clear and concrete bottom, and there's no chance of running into anybody. That's a different story. You can run fully submerged safely and still have a really great time. But for the other 99% of people, I think this is probably a good plan. What are you holding up, Robert? You're trying to get someone's attention.
Yeah, I want to see if I can see it on my camera. This is for Mike. I actually have a mask that I bought from Arc Model. I waited about a month to get it from China. And this is what it looks like. I don't know if you can see it or not, but if it can help you, I can fax it to you. But this is how Arc Model raises the masks. They have a little corkscrew with a motor, and then they give you a blueprint as to the wiring. It might help you, Mike.
Jacking screw.
Let's see. I'll show you what the wiring diagram is. Very, very simple. This is what it looks like.
Yeah. Up and down, that's right. Limit switches. The issue to that obviously is with a worm gear, which is basically what that is. And that's
a worm gear on a motor, and it gets plugged into one of the controllers on the sub.
Yeah. Engel used that system, for decades. The issue is that it adds length to the periscope, which reduces the height that your periscope can be, because that motor is taking up real estate. Everybody when they buy stuff, they're like, what about raising and lowering the periscopes? Especially with the Arc Model, boats. Well, the cylinder, the top of the cylinder is basically flush with the bottom of the conning tower, so you can only raise those things like an inch. So it doesn't
go very high. No.
You got to decide whether or not that's worth it. And on that topic, something that works really well if you don't want to worry about microcontrollers and worm gears and linkages, there is nothing wrong with foam. You can put a float on the bottom of those periscopes, and as you submerge, the foam engages the surface of the water, and it pushes the periscopes up out of the boat. So as you dive,
That's a good idea.
The foam hits it, and you'll actually see them raise, up out of the mast before you fully submerge. So that's a low-tech solution for people who want to integrate periscopes with their boats. Just be aware that you are adding some buoyancy to your boat, which having that up high is not a bad thing. But
old school, baby. Old school, baby.
Just add something really quick. One thing, if you are putting on periscopes that are powered by motors or anything, put a polyfuse in line. The amount of times it saved my angle, because if at any time it gets jammed, that motor will just keep on going and you burn out. If you get a resettable fuse, they're called polyfuses. They'll handle 7 amps, but they'll keep tripping and coming back in. They're a lifesaver.
There you go. And that, by the way, is a good advice for everybody, make sure no matter what, you have a fuse built into your boat. And make sure that it's the first thing that you install. And I talked about this last time. I used to build the boat and put the fuse in almost last, and I don't know how many times I burnt stuff up. Far better to have a 10-cent fuse blow on you than fry your speed controller or receiver. So first
How
thing,
would you size it? How would you size the fuse?
I usually put, I go a little higher. I put a 15-amp fuse in there just because with a 10, which is typically what you'll see, it's a little bit, it can get tripped if you got a lot of stuff all going all at the same time. So I have good luck with 15 amp, but it really depends on your boat. Your huge, monster boat, if you're, or your Nautilus even, if you're sucking massive amount of amps through that brushless setup that you have, you'll trip the fuse, which wouldn't be a good thing. But if I'm not mistaken, I'm trying to remember, does the M-Tronics have a built-in fuse?
No.
It is an overheat protection, which is the same thing.
Yeah.
But that's one beauty about the poly fuses. What they do is they just trip out and then they come back in.
Thermal overload.
Yeah, they're brilliant. And you just, the ones I get are 7 amp, I just pair them up, get 14 and all that. I put them on my angle tanks, I put them on my motors. So if they do trip, it's gonna reset without you having to go into the water.
And where you put the fuse is important too.
Yeah.
You don't want to shut down your hotel services just because your speed controller went crapper.
Mm-hmm.
You want to put that fuse back in propulsion so that if it blows, it doesn't take out your hotel services.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I myself go 1/3 of the rating. So if I have a 15 amp speed controller, I'll put a 5 amp fuse, and that gives me a good safety factor, because the bottom line is you're trying to protect the electronics. Now, it may seem like a lot, but really, my big boat ran only 1 amp at normal cruising speed. So, that was a good fudge factor. Maybe 2 to 1 if you want, if your system, you have a 20 amp speed controller, go with 10 amps. Because you're really trying to protect that $50, $60 investment.
Sure.
Quick question about this, maybe related to fuses blowing, is waterproofing the cylinders. The seals on here are pretty good from what I've seen. I siliconed on either side of the conduit that runs to the main ballast tank. But where the servo rods extend out, I put silicone grease on those. For any of those penetrations, what's the best way to ensure that they're watertight?
So just as a reminder to everyone, grease lubricates. It does not seal. All right. It'll help, but don't use grease as a sealant, hoping that it's going to plug up, a hole. In theory, that your seals should work just fine without lubricant, but you do want those in there, and you want to use silicone grease, which is exactly what you're using. I use silicone oil. It helps penetrate in there a little bit better, and it doesn't stay, goopy and trap dirt, which is an issue, especially for your main seals. Grease can trap contaminants in it, and when you push that closed, if there's a big chunk of something, it can create a void that water can get through. So OTW does not recommend the use of grease at all for their cylinders, just to use the straight rubber. So if you're talking about the seals that Dave engineered, those are resin encapsulated O-rings. Those are linkage seals. So it's a simple 1/16 inside diameter O-ring. If you get them straight out of the box, I highly recommend, and I've mentioned this in a couple of my videos, take a 1/16 inch drill bit and run it through the seal. Just give it a little wiggle back and forth and just kind of eat up a little bit of that inside resin. And that's going to eliminate, or at least greatly reduce, friction going through that seal. So just loosen it up just a little bit. It's not going to hurt the actual seal. It'll just chew into the resin so that it's not binding on the actual linkage rod. The actual seal takes place on the rubber, and a drop of oil is all you need to keep that lubricated.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, if you guys haven't seen it already, if you want like the high-tech version of the seals, I've got a video on making your own seals. You can use cup seals and oil light bearings, and those will be the high-tech version. Super low friction, and the way they're designed, because they're shaped like a C, you've got the exterior pressure pushing on them, and they're going to push harder the more pressure differential there is. So they work really well, and I think I looked up the specs on them. I think they're rated, properly installed, to like 10,000 PSI. So they should work just fine for sealing out our stuff.
Just another question, and this is probably for Dave Merriman as well as you, Bob. As you know, with these, I've found that's a 6mm shaft, and I've got a 6mm U-cup seal in there. I've found that the friction's been pretty tight, and I've had to just subtly machine down the shaft at the point where the cup seal sits. Otherwise, it feels really tight. Now, I'm wondering if I shouldn't worry about that because the motor's got enough torque to just turn that sucker regardless of the U-cup seal. But I've just had a hard time working out precisely the amount of friction, how smooth it should be. It's just been one of those grey areas. It's been really hard to determine.
Take an amp reading.
David.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Are you using submarines or are you using cup seals?
No, cup seals.
Yeah, you got a tolerance problem.
Okay.
Listen, I would go with the friction. That's what God gave us motors for, to overcome friction.
And the reduction.
Okay.
I'm not a machinist anywhere close to like David or any of you guys either. I would not count on my tolerances being consistently repeatable to the point that I would feel comfortable machining my own shafts. And obviously when you get these stainless shafts, they're polished. So you have a perfectly smooth surface. And as soon as you machine that all goes away. So yeah. I'm with Dave. I would absolutely, stick with the stock seal, the stock shaft, and just see what happens. I'd be willing to bet 15 minutes of constant operation, and those things will loosen up nice, and you
right.
No problem.
Okay, because it seems like they just feel like I put the 6mm cup on the shaft, and it just feels a little bit tight. And I'm thinking, should I machine it? But I'm hearing you now with imperfections, even tiny little imperfections, because. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I'll give that a go, and what have I got to lose? I'll just replace it.
Well, and I'm talking to you as somebody who's getting into this field, and yep. Dave's intimately familiar with it. To have to individually machine each shaft for every cylinder that you are going to be producing for a production unit it gives me a migraine just thinking about it, so.
Hey guys.
It's a lot of work just machining each end cap for a polycarb cylinder. It's a lot of work, and I'm impressed with Dave Merriman for just the sheer. I know how much work goes into a cylinder. It's a truckload of work. So, well done, David. You've earned your rest. Well done.
We're here to be punished.
What for it too?
All right, Nick, what's up?
Hey, I was just going to let you guys know, most of those shafts, they're centerless ground. It's a machining process to get a precision, a certain surface rating and a precision size. So if you want to have a lot of repeatability in a certain size shaft, look at centerless grinding. It's usually a commercial service.
There you go. All right, good stuff. We're at 3:10. Typically these go for like an hour, but this is like a special edition version. So we're going to keep this going for a few more minutes, provided you guys are still interested in talking. So keep it coming.
Hey, Mike, this is Bob. If you need a photostat of this paperwork, let me know and I can send it to you.
Absolutely. Yeah, please. Bob Martin has my email address. Hell, it doesn't matter. Trust you guys. You can email me at bratley.michael@gmail.com. It's a B-R-A-T.
You know what? Let me get a pencil and paper.
Yeah, sure.
You know what, Bob, for the sake of ease, just reach out to me. I'll get it for you, okay?
Oh, all right. You know what? I'll send it to Bob Martin because I got him in my directory. I'll send it right to Bob and he could probably put it in his files for anybody else that needs it.
There you go.
Bob and I do it all the time.
All right. Everybody else is just trundling along with their builds. They've got no problems. Life is great.
Bob.
Yes.
Let's come back to 2.5 for a moment, sir.
Okay.
I looked in the internet. There is a company called Radio Master TX16S, and a German guy told a modification to build in a Graupner HF module for 40 megahertz, for example. You have to little bit change the connectors because they are not really fit together.
Yep.
I have an instruction manual in German, but I think it will fit in also 35 or what is in America, 35 or 36 megahertz?
75.
70. Oh, sorry, should put in, and he is working on a synthesizer module. He will create, and I have to wait. I will contact this guy. Would be nice. You can use this remote with a touchscreen easily, and you can then choose the channel on the touchscreen.
There you go.
If this module is once coming out, finally.
Yes.
I hope so.
Absolutely.
I will write him also the other frequency, 75, and in UK. What is UK for frequency?
40.
UK 40 also. The UK have which frequency for the
We
remote?
use, hello Gunnar, yeah, it's Matt. Yeah, we use 40.
40?
Yeah.
Hello Matt, okay. I will keep you updated about this construction of this new module.
Yes, that would be great. I'd love to hear more about that. Again, this has been a big issue with us. And one of the biggest things, because I did reach out to a manufacturer and they said, hey, that's no problem. I'll make them for you. You just need to promise you'll buy 1,000 of them at one go. So, the issue is if we felt confident that, for example, the FCC was not going to change, because it's that frequency range, at least here in North America, is becoming less and less used. So it's highly probable within the next 5 or 10 years that it's going to be appropriated for other purposes. And if that ends up happening, I don't know about you guys, but an investment of 1,000 radios is not anything I want to be sitting on, particularly if I can't sell them. So it's obviously a big concern of ours in investing in this old band of communications, which is why I and some other people have decided to at least explore jumping on the bandwagon for the high frequency radios to see if we can salvage the experience, for everybody and get all of the benefits of, frequency matching and all of that fun stuff. So. Yeah, no, that's great though, Gonti. If that's out there and we can jump on that bandwagon, if we can all get together and join forces, I think that would be awesome.
I will send you anyway the instruction in German. You can translate it with, I don't know, this is a PDF. I don't know if you can translate it online or with your PC. I don't know.
I will give it a shot.
I will write him also these days an email to ask if the other frequencies are also possible to change or to deliver, to build this in this. Yeah, I have to see. And let's go back to the seal. In the first moment, it is hard to turn the stainless steel shaft, but then it will run easily. I don't want to give any energy in it. It works well. It is tightened, but it works.
There you go.
Here we go. Okay.
Yeah, thanks again too. That's helpful, mate. Thanks very much.
Yes.
Spin it with a drill motor so you could lap it in.
Yes. Let's run it for some hours.
There you go. If you smell burning rubber, you know something's wrong.
Yeah, right.
Or you don't have corona.
Bob, tell me, what is about the dolphin class, the small one, the midget one?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Delphine, midget
Delphin.
submarine.
Delphin, yes. So that is still going. As I mentioned, I've got some higher priority projects going on right now. Namely, the cylinders are taking up my time. But the large Delphin is mastered and molded. So basically, where we're at right now is putting the prototype together. And we've got a contra-rotating brushless motor set up already installed and ready to go for that particular boat. I think we're going to do a dry hull box for it rather than a cylinder. At least for the prototype, we'll see what that looks like. But it's coming. That's all I can say. You know, this little two-man show is going as fast as we can. Hopefully, we don't crash.
I do have something to add, actually. Just a quick thing. So as a beginner, as very new to this hobby and to RC in general, I find it very difficult to, I find one of the hardest things for me is learning the vocabulary, right? So like, I'm like, hey, what can I use for, say, linkages in my submarine? And I'm thinking, and I say, hey, I've seen these little L brackets, or I've seen these little things, right? But I don't know the names of them. So it's hard for me to actually do the research and find them on, say, Amazon or find them online. So I find that for beginners, that's a very hard thing, is the actual vocabulary, so you can look things up and find them.
So
Ask.
let me give you guys all a sneak preview here. I don't know if you can see this.
Yep.
So this is about 80% finished. This is my RC Submarines for Dummies. It's about, I think, 80 pages right now. And it goes into FAQs, basics of like materials, electrical, glues, bushings, radios, hulls, batteries, linkages, control surfaces, propulsion, terminology, anything that I can think of that I thought would be saving me time explaining through email and correspondence, with customers. So this is coming, and it's coming soon. Most of the verbiage is completed, and now I need to populate it with pictures.
And combined with your videos too makes a huge, that's really great, because I'm sure you write something and you can probably refer to a video that you've made that really helps it.
Yes.
Publish it.
Yeah.
That's going to be great, Bob.
Yeah. Where will we be able to find it?
I beg your pardon?
When you, I'm sorry, you go first, Rick.
Sorry, I was going to say volume 2, or mistakes I have made and learned from.
That would be a very big book. It would be much bigger than the first book.
But where will we be able to find this this paper that you're writing when it's released?
I'm going to make it available on my site. It's going to be everywhere. I'll have it, links posted on the forums, on Facebook, and all over my website. You will not forget that it's available. Trust me.
Okay, sounds good. Looking forward to it.
Hey, Bob.
Yo.
Quick question going back to 2.4 megahertz.
Okay.
Isn't those antennas are meant to be a certain length?
Correct.
And you were talking about extending the antenna?
Yeah. So David was one of the first ones that really kind of put the information out in an easily digestible format. Back when he was working with Mike Caswell. And then Ed obviously kind of took it the next step. And by the way, if everybody sees that chat window there, Ed posted the link on the forums to the thread where you can get all of the information that you need for extending the antenna. But basically, the idea is you want to move the antenna, you're not extending it. So you want to create an antenna on the end of it, an extension. So what you use is a shielded, a coaxial cable. It's very thin. It's maybe less than 1/8 of an inch in diameter. And that coaxial cable is run to the appropriate length, typically, let's say 3 feet. And then you strip the shielding away from the tip. I believe it's 1.25 inches exactly, so that you can expose the appropriate length of antenna. And then you just throw some heat shrink on it and you're done. It's super simple. I've done it 3 times now with these boats. It works awesome.
Excuse me, Bob. I got to back out for now. Nice meeting everybody. When you get back, look at your emails. I just scanned those 4 pages and I put it for Mike.
You got it. Sounds good.
Okay, so you guys use it and enjoy it.
Thank you, sir.
Happy New Year, fellas, and nice meeting you.
You bet. Good to see you.
Talk to you soon, Bob. Thanks.
All right. I will say that this format of meeting, it really, I deal with people all over the world, and to put faces with names, it's incredible. I love the fact that we got representatives from like 4 or 5 different countries here, from all ages and demographics. It's awesome to see. All right, tell you what, let's queue up another 5 minutes. That'll bring us to 3:30. How's that sound for everyone?
Did you get many new people with the free Zoom meeting?
Well, I mean, we've got 2 pages of videos, little windows lined up here. So I'd say we did pretty good. Typically, I mean, and you guys know this, we'll see 10, 12 people here. What I don't want it to turn into is the same guys over and over again. We need to get, this is, in my mind, you'll learn more, with a 15-minute Zoom conversation here than you will, hunting on the forums for a week. So it's just a massive resource that more people need to take advantage of.
Yeah, I tried plugging the DiveTribe meeting with the torpedo post the other day, maybe to lure out some of the lurkers.
No, there you go. Good stuff. We appreciate it. And what I'll do, I think I'm going to make this video public so that everybody can see what we do here at the DiveTribe. So from now on, though, this is something that I feel has benefit and value for people. So it will be a membership scenario, but everybody who is a member of DiveTribe will have obviously access to the live videos and to the archived videos that will go through, from this point forward.
Oh, join up.
Join.
Too right. You learn too much.
Question, Bob. Just with timing, I haven't paid much attention to the timing of DiveTribe because I haven't been a member. But my concern is that it will probably be at a time where I'm working. Like it's 7 a.m. in the morning here in Australia.
Yeah.
I know it's Sunday afternoon over in mainly the States. I'm not sure about what time it is in Europe, but trying to find an ideal time somewhere in the middle of the weekend where it fits most people and it's not going to collide with time zones and work. So if this was a normal work week for me, I'd be at work I'd be heading off to work about now. So I suppose you're not going to please everyone with this.
It is.
But it's something that might become an issue as it becomes more global. So
yeah. And ideally, maybe it'll turn into a situation where we've got, multiple meetings for different time zones. But, it's one of those things that it's just impossible to accommodate, everybody at the same time. And what we had discussed, and which I felt was important, because what I had done is I was switching the times around. I would have like an evening one week and a morning the other week, so that, people over in Europe, they don't have to wake up at 2 a.m. to join in DiveTribe. But the problem is people were forgetting about it. What we found is that the same time every 2 weeks, everybody just got it in their head. It's time to go to DiveTribe, and it became a little bit more, you know, intuitive for them to do it. I'm certainly open to pushing it ahead or back an hour or two. I mean, obviously for us here in North America, you know, being in the middle of the day, we've got some flexibility forward and backward. So if it would make more sense to, you know, for it to be at 4 o'clock, I mean, I'm certainly open to exploring that, or vice versa, 10 o'clock or whatever. So
Saturday gives him Sunday, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Because then he wouldn't be off to work on a Sunday unless he's a pastor or something.
There you go. I'm completely.
At least Saturday probably gives the most buffer for most people, I'm guessing.
All right, I can look at that. I'll make a note here. Same time-ish is okay.
Yeah, well, I as I said, I've just got to determine how I go. I'd like to join, but it just depends on how it works. But yeah, one of the things that concerned me was, like, I was looking at this a week ago thinking, oh yeah, I can make that. I'm on school holidays. I'm a school teacher in summer holidays at the moment. So, you know, I can make this, but if it was like this time every time I do it, I just couldn't do it and it wouldn't be viable. But as I said, it's going to be hard to get every time zone to fit nicely. It's just one of those things. It's not a criticism. It's just that's a factor for us non-US droppers in. So
understood.
No, it's great. It's great, Bob. It's really good.
I'm glad that you guys bring that up, because it's one thing I've been a huge proponent of. Is this is not, you know, a U.S. organization. This is not a North American organization. This is a group of people from around the world sharing in a very niche hobby. And I love the fact that we've got such a diverse group of people with amazing backgrounds, you know, from all around the world. So I'm hugely thankful that we all have the opportunity to benefit from each other's experience and varied backgrounds. So thanks a lot to everyone for taking the time to be here. And that feels like a good segue into a farewell for our first open DiveTribe meeting. Any closing comments or anything from anyone before we start saying our goodbyes?
Happy New Year to all you guys, and have a safe 2021.
There you go.
This is a great group, Bob. Everyone, Happy New Year.
Looking forward to the next one.
Get the shot so we can travel.
There you go. There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Bob, it's Gary, and if you got a minute, here's a shot of my first time through sub Nautilus.
Sorry, say that again, Gary. I don't know
if you can see that.
You're frozen on my screen. I don't know if everyone else is.
Yeah, frozen. Yeah, you're frozen.
Oh, there you go.
There he is.
Beautiful work. That's the 77th scale Disney Nautilus. There you go. Beautiful work.
Coming through, okay?
Well, we got a still image, but it's a good one. All right. Sounds good, everyone. And hey, start thinking about marking your calendars for September. For you guys overseas, we want to see you down here for our Subfest in Georgia.
That'd be nice if we could get over for COVID.
COVID. Wow.
Yeah, we're not getting a vaccine in Australia till March.
Well, we start getting it now, aren't we? For the old kids.
You got till September to figure things out. Get on it.
Well, I'm off to the Caribbean in a couple of months. That's all good.
Okay. All right, everyone. I'm going to let you all go. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Have an awesome remainder of your weekend.
Thank you all.
Thanks
on
the boards.
Bye.